Hola.
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 Okay. Mi nombre es Steve Lambert. Yo soy de Nueva York.
Nueva York. Ah.
I'm just kidding. I speak Spanish very poorly, so I'm going to speak English. Although I have figured out how to speak Barcelonan. Do you guys know how to speak Barcelonan? So I stand off to the side and I go, vale. And then I say, venga. And then that's Barcelona. Okay, so my name's Steve Lambert. I am the founder of the anti-advertising agency. I started that in 2004, and what we do is take sort of the tools and the methods of the advertising industry and the marketing industry and use them to do other, to make other messages. So that idea of like the power that marketing has and advertising has to create these dreams and fantasy worlds, very interesting. I love that they can do that. I think it's incredible. What they do with it and what they say is very disturbing to me, and I hate it. But the way that they do it to me is amazing. So, dreams, yes. So, and when I was working in San Francisco, I worked with guys that were like graffiti artists and political artists, and they said, that stuff, we don't want to have anything to do with that kind of like manipulation that advertising uses. So they kind of throw it all out, and I wanted to use it. So one of the first projects we did was this that's going to come up here. Oh yeah, okay, sorry. Can we go back? So the idea was that they had was you tell the truth, and then the truth sets people free, right? Tell people the truth, and then they'll learn, and then magically things happen. Truth will not set us free. Let's go back to that image of the bench. So this was one of our projects. We took over the advertising space on this bench and put in new messages. It's just 2 bolts. You undo it, lift it off, put in something new. Now, we just wrote, you don't need it. We did some other images. But this is a simple thing, like you take the dream and you do a little twist on it, you take their space and you transform the message. Now, okay, so that next slide, the truth will not set us free. This is what I learned. It's like, we put these messages out and nothing changes. Because telling people the truth, and then, you make something, you tell the truth, which is my next slide. Truth. And then some miracle happens, and then there's a revolution, right? This is sort of the train of thought. I put this message out, and then people, all of a sudden, magic stuff happens, and there's a revolution. But that's not really how it works. But the dreams that we can create are really powerful. So my idea became not to create a nightmare, right? Or present their dreams as a nightmare, but to present a new vision, a better vision. And kind of the idea of the ethical spectacle. So this is some examples of that, just sort of playing around. My next slide here. This says, I will talk with anyone about anything for free. And what I would do is set this up in a location near other people that wanted to talk. And they wanted to talk about religion or abortion or signing up for the military, right? And I just wanted to talk to you about whatever you wanted to talk about. So this is, again, sort of transforming the space, but also creating a new vision at the same time, or a new way that the world could work. And the way that it worked is in contrast with everything else that was there. So I just kept sort of building on this idea. Let's see what the next image is. Oh yeah, I made instructions, I forgot, about how to do it. So now other people go and do this. This is set up in like South Carolina right now, and people are doing it. All right, so this is along Market Street in San Francisco, and Market Street is the biggest, busiest street in San Francisco. And there's these advertising kiosks. On 2 sides they have ads, and 1 side the city is allowed to put art. So I worked with the same guy that we did the benches with. His name's Packard Jennings, great artist. And we made new posters for that space. They're 6 feet tall by 4 feet wide, big posters. And what we did is we talked to the head of the subway system there. We talked to the head of the bus and tram system. We talked to architects, and we talked to city planners, and we said, what would you do to the city if you didn't have to worry about politics or bureaucracy or budgets or physics? You could do anything you want. And then, these are bureaucrats, right? And then they told us, and we sort of turned it into these posters. So, well, let's see this. This is a poster for the Z line, which is not a line that exists yet. And it's promoting it as if it existed. And what it is a zip line that takes you from San Francisco across the San Francisco Bay to Oakland, just by hooking on and riding down. You go 0 to 60, no carbon. And it's an awesome ride. And there, you see up at the top, it tells you how to do it safely. You gotta protect your suits and put on a helmet and everything. And then there's down at the bottom the right way and the wrong way. So you don't lose all your paperwork and stuff. But this is how commuters could commute. It doesn't exist, it probably will never exist, but we put it out as if it did. So then people could see it and say, well, this is crazy, but why don't we have a better transit system? I'll show you another example. This is, there's a football stadium called Candlestick Park, and they're gonna move the team. So we made Candlestick Farms, and we turned the stadium into organic farm. But you can see here, the football players are still put to use. They're here tilling the fields. There's one riding a tractor back here. And this guy's just, resting on pumpkins and stuff. But, so they're still there. They can train, but the whole thing has turned into a farm. The next one, these were ideas for different themed train cars. And these, again, were all from these city planner guys. The top one was a bar. There was a karate studio down at the bottom, a gym with a sauna. So you could read and drink and everything on the train. And again, people see this and like, okay, how does a pool table work on the train? All the balls, when you stop, would roll one direction. We didn't really figure out the science about that. We weren't concerned about it. But when people see that, they say, well, that's crazy. But we could do something more interesting, right? So again, creating another vision. This is the Muni of tomorrow, the city transit of tomorrow. The train goes on a loop-de-loop, goes through a loop, right? It was just a little bit more fun. And then we got people riding elephants, and there's no gondolas in San Francisco right now. Okay, so let's see the next one. So again, these are ideas that usually come up in bars where you're like, well, what if the city worked this way? Another thing that came up in a bar, I was hanging around with Andy Bickelbaum from the Yes Men, and he said, Steve, there's this big protest coming up in DC, a bunch of people are gonna go, we're all gonna get arrested. Do you want to go? And I said, no, not really. I don't want to get arrested. But why don't we have a party and celebrate as if the war was already over? So we were going to create this parade for the end of the war. And we worked on that as a project as a parade for a while, and then we had this idea to create a newspaper that we could hold up at the parade that would make it more realistic, right? There's some pictures of that. Okay, we'll get to this in a sec. So we started working on the newspaper, and the newspaper we eventually realized was a much better idea because we could present our vision of the future using the sort of language of the times and the news, and as if it was real. Present it and let people hold it in their hands as if it was real, and present this whole other vision. We made the newspaper, we made 80,000 copies of it and distributed it all over New York. We told the press we made 1.2 million, was oddly they believed. I don't speak Spanish, I don't know. Okay, so let's watch this.
One of the leading members of the group Yes Men that pulled off this prank, and Steve Lambert, a senior fellow at the INnMotion Center for Art and Technology, who also played a part in pulling off this hoax. First of all, let's start with you, Andy. How did you pull this off? You printed up more than 1 million copies of this faux paper with the help of thousands of volunteers. How'd you do it?
Well, we wanted to do it. There's a tremendous desire to see change happen, obviously. The election proves that. And this was about showing how much change we really want. And making people realize
this was a 14-page paper
we will actually have change is if we continue to give Obama the mandate and the pressure.
We made a 14-page paper that had article after article presenting this sort of near-future, best-case scenario news. And people loved it. And the media loved it because we weren't just complaining about ending the war, we were sort of presenting this very possible future. And like when we went to do this thing at CNN, we were expecting the woman to be very hostile and talk about how we broke all these copyright laws and that you know, we were raising false hopes and things like that. But she loved it too, and like people at the time seemed to love it. Although they did actually sue us, but or attempt to sue us, but the individual people that we talked to loved it. So this idea of presenting new visions or like a new dream, an ethical spectacle, is what I'd like to put out there for you guys to think about. And that's about it, I think. Thank you.